So welcome to Mediterranean Diet 101 during COVID-19. Some of you might be familiar with Mediterranean diet already, and the challenges that we have right now might be unique to how to work with it and meal plan and still eat healthy when there's limited access to food and different challenges than we've seen before with maintaining a healthy diet. Um, During the session, leave your microphone muted if you can, and if you do want to participate, feel free to unmute your microphone to ask questions or make any comments, or you can use the chat feature. I might not see the chat feature very well with my slides open, but I will do my best to try to exit out so I can see those. This session is going to be interactive, so please have a pen and pencil or some paper ready. It's 30 minutes, so this is a very quick overview, but if you do need more support, I'm happy to support you all further with troubleshooting Mediterranean diet during this time. Some other items, we have these weekly webinars every week now, Friday at 10 a.m. with different speakers. Next week, we have Cindy Dumont, who's our clinical pharmacist. She's going to be talking about COVID-19 medications and myths that are out there, and answer any questions you have about what's the latest on the different medications and things that you're hearing about maybe on the news. That will be at 10 a.m. Same thing, go ahead and register. You'll get an email once you register, and that's the link to the webinar. Some other ones we have coming up after the medication myths next Friday, we will have two sessions, one on May 8th and one on May 22nd about direct primary care. For those of you who aren't familiar with direct primary care, it is a different model, payment model of healthcare where you're not going through insurance. It's a flat rate for all of your primary care. So we have a special running right now for adults. It's $99 for a month, where you get all of your primary care needs for $99. So it's very inclusive. The access to your primary care provider is the idea is that it's almost like a membership to get that access. And you can learn all about it at these info sessions. If it's an option for you, maybe you lost your insurance, health insurance, or you're just looking for a different option than going through health insurance to get primary care. On May 15th, we're going to do another COVID-19 question and answer with Dr. Hammond. We've had two sessions of these already, but it is a changing topic constantly. So tune in for that, because I am sure there'll be new information and things to share. Dr. Hammond, did you want to speak to any COVID-19 quick updates while we're talking?
Yes, just very briefly, Governor Polis put out his new plan for reentry into our normalcy or close to it. I would say his plan is guided by science and medical advice. It will work if people follow directions. It will not work if people do not. So wear your masks, very important. Stay, again, social distancing 6 feet. Don't congregate more than 10 people. These are very, very important features of this. If people abide by these simple rules, then we will get through this without too much more pain and suffering. However, if people do not choose to, and they don't wear masks, then we will be back to where we were fairly shortly. It won't be because of his plan failed, it's because people did not follow it. So if you're out and about, people aren't wearing their mask, just politely say it would be helpful, or give me some space, or whatever you need to do. Be assertive to protect yourself. And best of luck as we move forward in this new world.
Mm-hmm. If you have specific topics you'd like to see for these webinars, send me an email, Stacy@westminstermedicalclinic.com. We're definitely open to feedback. Or if you know anyone who has a topic they would like to even share, we could work with them and make this, even have patients featured. So we will be recording this webinar. To listen to this one or other ones that we've done in the past, you can access them on our website. It's under the health education tab. So if you go to westminstermedicalclinic.com, you can type in this whole link and get there, or if you go to the forums and resources section and scroll down, you'll see health education, and all the webinars previously will be posted. After the session, I'm going to be sending a survey. I really appreciate any comments you have about today's session. We're really open to it. Webinars are new territory for myself and the clinic, and we would love your feedback. The last announcement I have is that we are open. So not only are we doing televisits and visits by phone, but our clinic doors are still open and we are available to see you in person. We have different, when you call, we'll talk about different options if you prefer to do a televisit and if that's appropriate, kind of given what you're coming in for. Scheduling it the same way, call our phone number on our website. We also have a chat feature on our website now, so you can even just chat with one of our folks who's doing scheduling. We are also accepting new patients. So spread the words to friends and family if they need a primary care provider. We are accepting new patients now through July 1st, and we would love to help continue to take care of this community. Our hours are a little bit different than they used to be. We are currently operating with an 8 to 5 schedule, Monday through Friday. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Mediterranean diet during COVID-19. This is our agenda for today. We're going to talk a little bit about the Mediterranean diet basics, and some of you might already be familiar with it, so this might be a review. And then we're going to talk about the COVID-19 challenges and how that gets incorporated, and then we're going to do a little activity and practice some meal planning together. So just to kind of get a little poll here to see what everyone's familiar with Mediterranean diet is, on the chat feature, if everyone can find that, it's on that toolbar. Go ahead and click chat. I would love to see what everyone's experience with Mediterranean diet is so far. So on the chat, if you want to write a word or two to say proficient or still learning or new to it, just to get an idea of where everyone's at, go ahead and use the chat feature and provide a little bit of that feedback so we can get a sense for folks and what they might know. Does everybody see that chat feature? Okay, so I see a still learning. Okay. How is everybody else's comfort level with Mediterranean diet? Anybody else? Okay, so the folks I heard from, it sounds like we're in the process of learning. So that is always a state, I'm always learning too, and I'm still always learning, but that gives me thanks for your feedback. That gives me a sense for how much emphasis to put here. So Mediterranean diet is clean eating. So some of you might have heard this term. It's eating really simple. It's eating real foods. When you look at your plate, you can tell what's on it. You can tell what the ingredients are. So if you take a, crazy packaged food, let's say maybe crackers that are orange colored, can you tell what the ingredients are by looking at it? Not really. You can guess that there's probably flour. You don't really know what that orange color is. That's a processed food. It took lots of manufacturing and production to get to that state. But when you look at your plate and you see broccoli, you might not know what the seasonings are, but it's broccoli. It's the ingredient. You see it. And so that's kind of what this idea of clean eating and avoiding processed foods means. It is an anti-inflammatory diet, meaning the foods you're eating can actually reduce inflammation in your body, and the foods that you're not eating that cause inflammation, you're avoiding. So it works in both ways. It's an emphasis on eating fruits, vegetables, fish, healthy fats and oils, and whole grains. It's getting back to the way maybe our ancestors used to eat, with just simple, real foods. The research has shown it helps with cardiovascular health as well as weight management, diabetes management. A lot of health problems that we have in this country are much better managed in regions like the Mediterranean diet, where the Mediterranean diet is, and the health problems aren't as significant as we have here with the diet that we have in this country. Okay, so these are the Mediterranean diet rules. For those of you who've worked with me before, I often show the Old Ways Mediterranean diet brochure, and I actually simplified it a little bit. They have 8 rules, and I thought, you can probably sum this up in 6 rules or so. But the first rule, and this is very important, and this is going to guide your meal planning during COVID and any time, because this is what you always return to when, is this a Mediterranean diet meal or not? Just follow this almost as a checklist. So the first rule is to eat lots of vegetables. the more the better. Eat the rainbow, a variety of colors. I mean, you could even set a goal for yourself to eat 3 different color vegetables a day, not just green vegetables, but orange and red, and because each color vegetable has different phytonutrients, which supports different aspects of your health. So it's really changing the way you think about meat. So instead of saying you're having chicken with a side of broccoli, you're having broccoli with a side of chicken. So it's making the meal more about the vegetable. And as part of it, when you're thinking about your weekly meal plans, have a vegetarian meal in there. And it's not to say it's a pasta meal, it's a vegetable meal, and finding ways to get protein from maybe plant-based sources once a week or so. The next rule is eat dairy in moderation. There is dairy in the Mediterranean, but it's not a ton. It's not a cheesy sauce. It's maybe feta on a salad. It's eating small amounts of dairy, not huge amounts like we have often in our diet in the US. Eating seafood twice a week is part of the Mediterranean diet. As part of this, I usually recommend to limit your tuna intake because tuna is high in mercury, and that's a toxin that can cause other health problems for you. Choose wild caught fish in general. In general, wild caught fish is known to have, less pollution and less, that the fish is healthier. And then eating fish high in omega-3 fatty acids, things like salmon. If you're not a picky eater, sardines are really good for you. Those are kind of the 2 highest that are low in mercury and also have those omega-3 fatty acids. Rule number 4 is to use healthy fats. So olive oil, avocado, nuts, seeds, avocados. There are healthy fats. And for those of you who lived through the 90s, you probably remember all the fat-free foods and the fat-free diets that were promoted, and that's been very debunked. And there are bad fats that you want to avoid, but there's healthy fats that you really do need for a good balanced diet. So the oils that you want to avoid are the vegetable oils. The heavily processed meats aren't necessarily a healthy fat for you either. So it is sticking to maybe cooking with olive oil or avocado oil, and nuts, seeds, and avocados make great snacks that can get you some healthy fats too. And of course, the salmon and fish bring in healthy fats. Switch to whole grains. So this isn't a diet where you can never eat bread again. They do eat grains in the Mediterranean, but it's whole grains. So not just wheat bread, because wheat doesn't necessarily mean whole wheat. The word whole is what you're looking for on a label, and that's really important. So you have to read the ingredients, because sometimes even bread on the label will say whole wheat bread on the front, and then you look at the ingredients and there's tons of white flour and regular wheat flour in it, and it's not whole grains across the board. So you really do have to read those ingredients. So, but it isn't the main portion of it. So it's not whole grain pasta with a side of broccoli. It's broccoli with a side of whole grain pasta. It still is vegetable centric. So the whole grains are part of it, but it's not the main part of it. And then if you're looking for something sweet, eat fruit for dessert. Fruit has, especially, those colorful berries in the picture, lots of phytonutrients and antioxidants and things that will support your health. And, you'll find that if you're used to a lot of sweets, the more you cut that back, your taste buds do change, and you really don't feel like things taste too sweet after a while. And you're like, wow, these berries are just sweet enough. And that's kind of the idea. The less processed foods, the less salt, the less sugar you have, the more your taste buds will be in tune to different flavors and be open to different flavors. Any questions? And feel free to unmute yourself if you have a question. Does anyone have any questions about the Mediterranean diet rules before we start applying them? And I'll click out so I can see my chat screen if anyone wants to participate there. Okay. Great, no questions so far. So these are the basics of the Mediterranean diet. So when you're thinking about a Mediterranean diet, always start with, is it lots of vegetables? Is there dairy? It doesn't have to be, but if there is it a small amount? Does it have seafood? Have I had seafood this week? Am I using healthy fats? Am I using whole grains? Those are the types of things that would be going through your mind as you're checking the boxes. So COVID-19 presents some different challenges. And I kind of want to hear from you on this. I think the obvious challenge that we know of is less access to food. Maybe you're not going to the grocery store as much and your fridge is sparse, or something you wanted to make at the grocery store isn't available on the shelf. Or maybe you're working from home and teaching your kids, and time management is even more of a challenge and you're even more out of routine than usual. So the idea of making a meal is more challenging than it was before. Are there other challenges that anyone would like to share that have come up with COVID-19 as far as how to eat healthy?
I don't know if you said this, but I did order from King Supers, and I finally tried more ordering, fresh produce. And I ordered mushrooms, and it was like, oh my God, was this the last package, or you just grabbed the first one? It was like I needed to cook everything right away. It wasn't gonna last more than a couple days.
Yeah, so things lasting in your fridge, right? And you don't want to have to make too many stops. And that's a good point. If you are getting food delivered, you don't get to pick your produce, and you are subject to what the person at the store wants you to have, which is probably what's most ripe they want to get rid of. So that is definitely a real challenge. I think I saw a chat comment here. I wish my Zoom would let me do two things at once. Okay. Safely going to the store. Yeah, so that's another challenge that does come up for folks is, going to the store. If you are going to the store, you don't necessarily want to spend a lot of time there, making sure you're keeping your distance. It adds another component. The good news I will say about the food shortage is the produce section really does, despite what the delivery is giving you, the produce section is pretty abundant. The foods that have been really impacted for selection are the processed foods, the canned goods, the packaged goods. And in Mediterranean diet, that's not really what you're going for anyways. So what it does take is that strategizing of, okay, I have these mushrooms that are about to go bad. I need to make them. And then is this a dish I can freeze and have leftovers of? So it is maybe more of this batch cooking approach. So what's in your fridge? So depending on what you have access to, you might find some of these things. And I put them in categories based on the Mediterranean diet principles. So what are the different vegetables? There are so many types out there. These are ones you might see this time of year. Maybe you start to see squash too. Healthy proteins, healthy fats, fruit, whole grains. These are the types of things that you're looking for when you're at the store or when you are ordering to be able to plug that into your meal plan. So I'm going to give you all a 2-minute task here. And if anyone is unable to do this right now, put it on your homework list. I want everyone to go to their fridge and freezer. And I say freezer too, because using frozen food right now, especially if those mushrooms are not looking so good, maybe you can get frozen mushrooms, or maybe you can get frozen things. I would say the frozen food is less accessible right now than some of the fresh produce, but that might be getting better. So if everyone can take their pen and paper, and we'll start the clock, 2 minutes, run to your fridge, freezer, and write down all the stuff you have that might fit into the Mediterranean diet based on what we talked about. Any questions? Okay, ready, set, go. So you have a list of what's in your fridge and freezer to work with. So this is, you haven't been to the store, you just have to make do with what you have. You haven't had a delivery. This is just piecing together things and getting creative. So with Mediterranean diet, this is kind of the simple formula. Really, you want to keep it simple. Start with a vegetable. So find a vegetable on your inventory list. Circle that vegetable that maybe sounds good. Find a healthy protein or a healthy fat. And then if you have whole grains, include that. And then how do you assemble that together? You don't necessarily have to find a recipe. You could say, all right, how do I make asparagus? I like to steam it, or I like to saute it in a pan. How do I do fish? I'm gonna broil it. I have some nuts. I'm just gonna crush those up and throw them on top and see what happens, and then you have your meal. So it is almost piecing together ingredients instead of thinking of the end result, saying, I want to make nut and crescent salmon with asparagus. You're thinking of what are the ingredients I have that I can mix and match to make something. So it's starting with the vegetable first, because Mediterranean diet, #1 rule is start with the vegetable. So you have your asparagus, you have your fish, you have your nuts. Those fish and nuts are healthy proteins and fats. The asparagus is your vegetable. And then this meal doesn't necessarily have whole grains, which it doesn't have to. So that would be an example of how you piece it together. Another example, it doesn't have to be something from the Mediterranean region. The Mediterranean diet really is just eating simple, like we talked about, and emphasizing these vegetables and healthy fats and proteins. You know, it really is these types of foods that you're assembling, but the flavors can be from whatever region on the planet you want. So this one is an example of more of an Asian flavor Mediterranean diet. So if you have broccoli and peppers in your fridge, chop those up, saute them. Maybe you have some chicken, saute that. It could be frozen or fresh. And then you have some sesame seeds. Throw those in. Maybe you have some low sodium soy sauce or coconut aminos or something like that, and saute it in a pan, and you have a stir fry. And you know, maybe this meal you want to do some rice on the side, and brown rice would be the whole grain option of rice. Breakfast can be challenging for folks. So like, how do I eat vegetables at breakfast if the number one rule is vegetables? Well, breakfast is a great opportunity to use leftovers. So say you have that leftover broccoli and peppers from the stir fry the night before. They're already chopped up and everything. Throw those in with some eggs, scramble them up, make a scramble. Maybe you have some whole grain bread you toast up, and you have an egg scramble with lots of vegetables in it. This one, you know, doing egg scrambles or, you know, egg on avocado toast or something like that. There's so many vegetables you can throw in: tomatoes, avocados, spinach, mushrooms if they look like they're going bad. Arugula is a vegetable you could use, sweet potatoes, Brussels sprouts, onions, and if you have a nitrate-free or less processed version of bacon, you could even throw a little bit of that in there. So this could really be a meal of a lot of the ingredients from before, and a way to use things quicker up in your fridge. Another thing you could do for breakfast is, you know, half of those vegetables you could even throw in a smoothie. And I know some of you maybe have tried that before, but there's, you know, there's some good vegetables that go well in smoothies, like carrots and kale, spinach, beets. Those all blend well into a smoothie with some berries. So now it's your turn. So I'm only going to give you about a minute here, because this is a little crash course of Mediterranean diet. Given your inventory, I want you to mix and match a breakfast, lunch, or dinner, or snacks, whichever one you want to tackle. Take a vegetable first, and then find a healthy protein and fat, and kind of think about, how would I cook this? Would I cook them separate? Is it a one-pan dish? And are there things that you could get maybe out of leftovers out of it? Go ahead and jot down your ideas for what you can do with what's in your fridge or freezer. Hopefully you could come up with at least one meal. And then when you go to the store, you know, you can think the same approach. Think about the ingredients, not necessarily the end product. Based on the limited access or what you have, think about what things can I assemble together versus trying to make this end product meal with everything. So thinking about the whole week and how to meal plan right now, there are some tips that might be more specific to now, and ones that would be more relevant to when things are back to the old normal. So putting your schedule into the meal plan, I think right now is more important than ever to have a routine. So if you haven't set a new COVID-19 routine for your life, go ahead and take that time and make your meal plan match that schedule. So identify which days you have more time to cook and which days you don't, and write that in on your meal plan so that you're taking that into account when you decide what to make. Write in who maybe is the primary cook of the meal, assign duties, put it on the plan so everyone knows what they're responsible for. Involve your kids. You know, what a great way to teach them how to cook. And, you know, maybe they don't have as much school time, so they have some time to help you cook. This is less relevant right now, looking at store ads, what's on sale. If the store ads match what's in the store, you know, that's a tougher one. Use ingredients more than once, plug them in different places. If you have mushrooms, make a stir fry, throw them in your burrito, throw them in your eggs, you know, throw them in as many places as you can, because you might not get a lot of mileage or a lot of time out of it. Use the side dish approach like we talked about. Balance your plate with your goals. So if you have family with food preferences, which I know many of you might, maybe they don't like the asparagus. Okay, they can have 2, but that doesn't mean you can't make half your plate vegetables. So by doing this side dish approach, you can really stick to your goals of focusing on the vegetables. And maybe, you know, your husband or wife really loves their rice. Well, they can have as much rice as they want, whatever their goals might be, but you can limit yours and do it for yourself. But keep it simple. You know, it's not probably the time to go into a recipe book and find crazy ingredients and things like that. Really just keep it simple and focus on those Mediterranean diet rules. A couple other tips. Write in where you need leftovers. So maybe you're not going to have time to cook, or maybe, oh, I need to prep this in order to be able to make this the night before. Use the meal plan as a working document to support you in the week in that whole planning process. The next one, less relevant to right now, right when you need to bring your food with you, or if you're going to be eating out. So that's probably not happening right now, but keep that in mind for future. The last 2 rules here: be flexible. It's okay if you have to shift your meals during the week. If you don't feel like salmon one night, just move it the next night. That's okay. And then save them. If you have a meal plan that worked and everyone liked it and it worked well, save them. You know, no sense in reinventing the wheel. So any questions about any of those meal planning tips or any comments? So if you need more support with this and help, oh, I think we do have one comment here. Oh, question about portion control. That's a great question. I think right now we're probably in general more sedentary than usual. So if you're using less energy, you probably don't need to consume as much energy, and energy is a, you know, form of calories too. So I think being in tune, I think the Mediterranean diet approach, because some diets really specify have 1 cup of this, 2 cups of this. Mediterranean diet is more, you know, half your plate vegetables with that kind of visual. It's more about mindful eating and being in tune with your hunger and being in tune with why you're eating. So a lot of the portion control with this type of lifestyle approach is checking in on a scale of 1 to 10, how hungry I am. How hungry am I? You know, and midway through your meal, maybe checking in. Drinking water throughout your meal. Am I hungry or thirsty? That can really help with portion control, because sometimes hunger and thirst are confused. Other things that might be helpful to keep in mind is how much do I eat when I'm watching TV or eating in front of the TV with my family? You know, am I being mindful about my intake? Am I shoveling food, or am I really tasting the food? So taking a mindful eating approach might be something to really practice with this idea of Mediterranean diet, is tasting each bite, eating like a food critic, smelling it, you know, really looking at it, savoring it, chewing things 10 times, you know, before you're finished with it, as well as checking in with the hunger and being aware if you're stress eating or eating because you're bored. Because if you're eating for those reasons, you would need to find a replacement for the boredom that's healthier, or to manage the stress. So eating not to be a replacement to deal with boredom and stress, because that wouldn't be the healthy approach for, you know, what your goals might be. So I hope that answers your question about portion control. So we're out of time, unfortunately, but if you need more support, I am here for you. Some of you have done health coaching before, but there are 2 health coaching options at the clinic right now. If you've already been working with me, we can continue kind of the same way that we've been doing it. But I do have a comprehensive program with more weekly and ongoing support that's available. If you want to just do single sessions here and there, Dr. Cindy Dumont, she's also a certified health coach, and she's our pharmacist. And she can bill insurance for visits, for those one-off visits. But if you want more of that comprehensive support, I'm here for you too. If you have any questions about health coaching, though, let me know, and we can get you in the right fit for where you might be and how much support you might want. I see one comment here. Fish twice a week. What are good options for protein the other 5 days? Nitrate-free bacon. Okay, where do you find this? Great question on protein. So fish 2 times a week. The other days you can do chicken, you could do beef, you could do pork, you could do on your vegetarian day beans. What I would recommend for meat is choosing grass-fed organic. The reason is when it's organic, it has less pesticides in it. When it's grass-fed, it tends to have more omega-3s, which is really good for your cardiovascular health. So choosing grass-fed organic is more getting back to the way our ancestors ate before we had large agriculture and systems that where we're really polluting our animal products. It's much simpler and cleaner to just stick with that. And if it doesn't say it's not grass-fed or organic, it will say those things. Costco has a good selection of that kind of stuff. If you want to order it online, ButcherBox is a company you can order from, and they have some options there. But you can do beef once a week, but you know, choosing the grass-fed organic option is going to be healthier for you overall. As far as bacon and things that are more of those, you know, typically fattier tasting processed meats, nitrate free is the best recommendation there. And you can find that at any store. You don't have to shop at Whole Foods to do Mediterranean diet by any means. King Soopers, they carry nitrate free bacon. It will say, a great store brand at King Soopers is the Simple Truth brand. Most of their stuff that they carry isn't all organic, but it's usually less processed and simpler ingredients. So great question. If you have any other questions, I don't want to go too much over. We're already 5 minutes over. I really appreciate everybody's attention today, and please fill out those surveys. I would love your feedback, and I'd love to hear from you. So shoot me an email or a message, and I hope everyone stays healthy and well and enjoys their Mediterranean diet meals this week.